My name is Key Air, and you are watching the important things that really matter. Today's subject, we're going to be talking about the real purpose of dating. The real purpose of dating. And the real purpose of dating is pretty much so that you are able, through spending time with the person, whether it's a male or female, spending time with the person to be able to see whether this person will be a good wife or a good husband to you. It takes time. It takes at least a year or a year and a half of spending time with a particular individual to observe them in numerous situations, observe them in public, observe them in private, observe them around their family, observe them around their friends. And also, too, this is part 3 of the real purpose of dating. So if you're coming to this video and you haven't watched part 1 of the real purpose of dating or part 2 of the real purpose of dating, you need to go back to part 1 and the part 2 and look at those videos all the way through. If you don't look at the videos all the way through, there are nuggets, gold nuggets all throughout those videos. And if you skip ahead or fast forward, you're going to miss something that could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if this is the first video of the series that you're looking at right now, you need to go back to part 1 of the real purpose of dating, then go to part 2 of the real purpose of dating, and then come back to part 3, because this is going to finish it up. And in this particular case, what we're going to talk about is costs. Costs are extremely important. And one of the things you need to ask yourself during the purpose, when you're following the real purpose of dating, which is to observe the person, whether it's male or female, to see if they will be a good wife or see if they will be a good husband. You should be trying to find out how much debt they're in. You need to find out how much debt the person is in. This is extremely important because you might be the person that may not be in any debt. Then you come along to a female or you come along to a male and you get with them and you're thinking about possibly marrying them, and they might be in so much debt, all that debt is going to be piled on you. They're going to be expecting you to help pay their debt off. So you need to ask yourself this question also too. Do you really and truly want somebody who has children? Do you really want someone who has children? That's male or female. Why is this another question that you should ask? Because this goes back to how much debt that the person is in. About 10 years ago, the estimated cost to raise a child from 0 to 18, this is only covering the years, from 0 to 18. The estimated cost is $250,000. In other words, $250,000 to take care of and support a child. This is not covering the period after 18, because after the period of 18, you are now taking into consideration additional debt associated with college. Now that amount, adjusted for inflation and all the other type of stuff, now it's about $300,000 to raise a kid from 0 to 18. That's only from 0 to 18. And after 18, many people assume that the person is going to be going to college, which is going to drive the cost up tremendously. You need to ask yourself, do you want to deal with somebody who has children, whether they're male or female? Because it will matter. If the kids are under 5 years old, you might as well just say it's going to be about $300,000 per child. And so, ladies, you cannot sit up here and think that just because you're a female is not going to affect you. It will affect you if that person has children. So if the person has like 2 kids, that's $300,000 each. Same thing for males. Males, if you're dating a woman with 2 kids, that's $300,000 each. That's $600,000. Ladies, that's $600,000. If you happen to marry a man with 2 kids, the baby mama of your husband's kids is probably going to be very, very angry that he married you instead of marrying her. And so she's going to feel very, very vengeful. She's probably going to go to court and petition the court to get additional increase in her child support, because now her baby daddy, the guy that married you, which is now your husband, has extra income coming in. Well, where is that extra income coming in? That's your income. And she may go to the front of the court and petition the court. And I'm not saying this is legal advice, but I'm saying what could possibly happen. And so if she does that, you may go and get your check one day. And as you're looking through your check, you look at all the taxes being taken out, the Social Security is being taken out, and all the other stuff that's being taken out, health benefits and stuff that's being taken out. You happen to be noticed as you're going through your pay stub that there might be $500 coming out of your check. And you ask your supervisor, oh, why is this $500 on my check? And what is this code next to this $500? Your supervisor tells you, well, that's child support code. So the baby mama of your husband may be hitting him up, which is hitting you up for the extra income that you're bringing into the family because he's now married. And they may be taking a significant hunk of money out of your check because you married the guy. These are things that are extremely feasible of happening. And these are the things you need to be taking into consideration before you marry somebody. Same thing for the men. You got to take all these things into consideration before you marry the person, because it will affect you. And like I said, if the 2 kids are under 5 years old, you might as well say it's going to be $300,000 cost to raise them from 0 to 18. And that's only for 0 to 18. So you could be conceivably starting out $600,000 of debt, whether you're male or female, when you marry this person. Now, you may have been a responsible person and paid off all your debt or paid off most of your debt. Well, when you marry this person, now the children are going to be a very, very significant amount of money towards debt. $600,000 if they're less than 5 years old. This is just child support. This is not taking into consideration any student loan debt. I was working at a place one time, and there was this cute little chocolate brown woman, and I went over to introduce myself, and we were talking, and we were having some good conversation. I was like, hey, I might want to get to know this lady. So anyway, while we were talking, she happened to mention that she went to the University of Michigan. So I'm like, oh, wow, okay. You went to the University of Michigan. I went to Michigan State University. And the person, all of a sudden, my industrial engineer's hat came on my head. And I just numbers started running through my head. I don't know, it just happened. I just started running through my head without really realizing it, how much debt she was in. So while she's talking, I'm thinking to myself, so first question I asked her was, did you go to the University of Michigan in Dearborn, or did you go to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, which is the main campus? She said, I went to the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. When she said that, I'm like, this woman's at least $100,000 or $150,000 in student loan debt. So while she's talking, I'm thinking about this. I said, okay. So then I said, well, what did you study? She said, well, I studied to be a teacher. I was like, okay. I said, well, when you graduated, didn't you go be a teacher and try to start paying back the debt? She told me, no. I said, well, why didn't you graduate and get a job in the field and start paying back the debt? She told me she realized that wasn't the field that she wanted to go into. But she still got about $150,000 worth of debt from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. So, at least that's what I'm estimating, somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000 worth of debt. So I'm like, okay, well, what did you do instead of going to get a job in your field to start paying this debt back? She said, well, I enrolled in another university. I'm like, you did? So she told me the other university she enrolled in. So I was like, okay, so what, to get your master's? She said, yes, to get my master's. When she said that, I'm like, that's about another $50,000. So you're talking about $150,000 from the University of Michigan, possibly. I'm figuring this stuff out in my head. I said she's probably about $150,000 worth of debt from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. She, instead of her graduating and getting a job and starting to pay the debt back, she went and enrolled into another university to get her master's. She told me she got her master's. I'm like, okay, great. But when she told me that, I'm like, that's about another $50,000. 50. So now I'm looking at her, I'm like, you're about $200,000 worth of debt. About $200,000 worth of student loan debt. And I'm thinking this while she's talking. So I was like, okay, well, when you graduated and you got your master's, did you go into your field and start trying to pay the debt back? She told me no. She's like, well, she realized that field wasn't what she wanted to go into. And that she's now thinking about going to law school. I said, you now thinking about going to law school? And I'm thinking, you're about $200,000 worth of debt. When are you going to start paying this back? At least I'm thinking this to myself. And she's telling me she's thinking about going to law school. Well, if she goes to law school, she's going to heap probably another $100,000 onto the $200,000 that she already has. A total of $300,000 worth of debt. And that's not including any children. Now, I don't think she had any children, but that's still $300,000 worth of debt. So I'm looking at her, I'm like, and so she's looking at me like, I guess she can figure that I'm sitting up here figuring this stuff out in my head, how much debt she's approximately in. And I'm like, wow. Now, males, men, and females, you ought to ask yourself this question. Who do you think, if I was to get with this particular female, or if you're a woman that's out there and you married somebody with all the student loan debt, who do you think the other person is going to ask about helping them to pay the debt off? Who do you think they're going to ask? They're going to ask you. And so I'm thinking in this particular case, if I was to get involved with this lady, if I was, but we were just talking as friends, but I'm thinking to myself, if I was to get involved with this lady, she'll be looking at me to help her pay this $200,000 or $300,000 worth of debt off. Student loan debt. Now, the student loan debt is not including. The student loan debt is not including any credit card debt she may have. Do you hear what I'm saying? I don't know. I can maybe estimate how much credit card debt that she may have based upon, say, like the last 3 or 4 women I was involved with in the past, and estimating how much they were in debt. One person was about $30,000 worth of credit card debt. $30,000. Another person was in $60,000 worth of credit card debt. Another person that I had dated at one time was $50,000 worth of debt. And one person, she was in so much debt, she wouldn't even tell me. So if I can just take the average of 3 ladies that I've been with, one that one time was $30,000 worth of debt, another person was $60,000 worth of debt, another person was $50,000 worth of debt. And the person that was $50,000 worth of debt, she took a bankruptcy. She went into bankruptcy to eliminate the $50,000 worth of debt. But guess what? The bankruptcy eliminated the $50,000 worth of credit card debt that she had in the past. But she ran the debt back up to $50,000 again. So what does that tell you? The woman who initially had $50,000 debt, she really was in $100,000 worth of credit card debt. So just based upon 3 of the ladies that I have been with in the past, this person here, she may be in a minimum of $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 worth of credit card debt on top of the student loan debt that she may have. But I'm not just talking about the males. I'm not just talking about the females. I'm talking about the males too, because there are men out there. There are men out there. There are men out there that are in a lot of debt. They don't have no control over the spending. As soon as they get their check, they